Module 1, Lesson 25, looks at a fraction as a percent. Our first example here shows an image with 3 cars and 2 trucks. Sam says that 50% of the vehicles are cars. They want us to give 3 different reasons or models that prove or disprove Sam's statement. So what I'm going to do is divide my box into 3 parts, so it's going to be obvious which ones they are. I'm going to first do a ratio table. I'm going to do a tape diagram. And I'm going to do a proportion. So on my ratio table, I'm going to have cars, trucks. No, they just want cars, so we actually don't need to say anything of the trucks. We just need to have cars in whole. Same thing for the tape diagram. We're going to have cars in the whole. And our proportion, we're going to have our 2 fractions that are equal to each other. So the ratio table, how many cars are there? 1, 2, 3. Altogether, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's my ratio, 3 to 5. That means my tape diagram needs to be 3 cars, 5 whole. And my proportion starts with a fraction of 3/5. Now, what I have to do is figure out what they're asking me, and since they're wanting to check if Sam's correct about the 50%, it means they want us to find the percent. And like I said in the previous lesson, for a percent, the whole has to be 100. So for all of these, our whole would equal 100. Now we're able to solve it. So for this one, if you don't know what 5 times what equals 100, you can divide to find the multiple. So this would be 100 divided by 5 gives you 20. So you take this times 20, you get 60. So the ratio is 60 out of 100, which would be 60% of the vehicles are cars. Over here, we do the same thing. This is 100. That needs to be broken into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 boxes. So that's 100 divided by 5 gives me 20, which means all of these boxes will be 20, which gives me the 60 out of 100. So that would be 60% of them are cars. And this one, first step, cross multiply. That is a 3 times 100 gives me 300. And then the second step is to divide. And we have 300 divided by 5 gives me that 60%. So we were able to say that Sam is wrong. Now, how is the fraction of cars related to the percent? The cars represent part of the whole, and use a model to prove that the fraction and percent are equivalent. Well, my percent was 60%, which is out of 100%. If I divide both of them by 20, creating an equivalent fraction, I get my 3 out of 5, 3 cars out of 5 total vehicles. And what other fractions or decimals also represent 60%? Well, that's just simplifying 60 over 100, or I can multiply it. It's just like we did on our ratio table. So if you want to see that on the ratio table, it'd just be like this, 60 out of 100. We could go down by half, that'd be 30, 50. Divide by 2 again, you get 15 25ths. You also could go up. 60 times 2 is 120. 100 times 2 is 200. And those are all equivalent fractions. Therefore, they're all equivalent to 60%. Example 2. A survey was taken that asked participants whether or not they were happy with their job. An overall score was given to 300 of the participants were unhappy, while 700 of the participants were happy. So we have 300 unhappy, 700 are happy. It says give a part to whole fraction for comparing happy participants to the whole. So we're looking at a ratio of happy participants to the whole. Then write a part to whole fraction for unhappy participants. What percent were happy with their job and what percent were unhappy with their job? So we're looking at happy. I'm going up here. It said 300 were unhappy, 700 were happy. So we need to define our part and our whole. So we had 300 that were unhappy, plus the 700 that were happy, which gives us 1,000 people altogether. So now we can actually make our fraction. So the fraction for happy people is 700 out of 1,000 people. I need to simplify this down quite a bit, and percents are out of 100. So let's simplify it down to 100. 1,000 divided by 10 gives me 100, so 700 divided by 10, and again, this is me just creating the equivalent fraction. 700 divided by 10 gives me 70. That's 70 hundredths, which is 70%. We're happy. I'm going to do the same thing with one unhappy. I have 300 unhappy out of 1,000 people that were surveyed. Again, I'm going to divide by 10 to get my equivalent fraction. 300 divided by 10 is 30. 1,000 divided by 10 is 100. And that would give me 30%. I can double check it because both of these have to be everybody. 70 plus 30 is 100, which means it's the whole. Now, our models to justify our answers. I'm only going to model one side since I'm giving you guys so many different options to choose from. So actually, a double number line may be the best thing, or a ratio table. So let's look at this ratio table. So we have 700. This is going to be people. And we have 700 that are happy. And we want to figure out, this is my part. This is my whole. So it's 700 out of 1,000 people. My whole has to equal 100. If I divide by 10, I get this. So I divide by 10, I get my 70. This would be my 70 out of 100, or 70%. You also could do you could cross multiply using proportions. And so this would be 700 over 1,000 is equal to, we don't know, out of 100. Cross multiply. 700 times 100, you get 70,000. Step 2, we divide. That's 70,000 divided by 1,000. And that gives you 70 out of 100, which is 70%. Now, what I would like you to do is we're going to try exercise 1. I want you to pause each step of the way as I go through this to check yourself before you go to exercise 2 in order to determine if you can get moved on to your checkpoint. We have actually 6 exercises that you could end up doing. I'll see how you do and move you on depending on how well this goes. So pause it, give an answer, hit play, check yourself. So Renita claims that a score of 80% means that she answered 4 out of the 5 problems correctly. She drew the following picture to support her claim. Is she correct? Well, she is correct, and this is why. So what this is showing you is that she started with the original fraction model. So right here is 4 out of 5. But she knows that the total has to be 100 in order to be a percent. So what she did is she took her 4 out of 5 and multiplied it 20 different times so that there would be a total of 100 boxes. And then if you look here, this is 4 by 100, which would be 80 shaded boxes, which is 80%. So she is correct. She created a model for how she created an equivalent fraction. Oh, I ran those together. And equivalent fraction. And we won't worry about that one there. So what I'm going to have you do is going over here to exercise 2. It says use the diagram to answer these questions. And then I'd like you to go ahead and do exercise 3 as well so that you're the one creating the model and kind of see which way you would prefer it. Remember, tape diagrams up here are the numbers. So my whole is a 5, which means my fraction would be out of 5. And then the 100 tells me that's 5 is equal to 100%. 4 is 80%, 3 is 60%, 2 is 40%, 1 is 20%, and all of these are out of 5. So all of my fractions that are representing these should have a 5 as the denominator.